Hi guys. For our second video today, we will be learning how to write every different type of linear equation. Remember, that means slope-intercept, point-slope, and standard form. We will also continue to practice finding our slope. I like to call this a monster problem. There will only be one example today. We're going to take this one problem, which contains two ordered pairs, and we're going to find four different answers. Remember, when you have 2 points, you can connect them together to make a line. So taking these 2 points, I should be able to find a line. All right, so when you're given a problem that has two ordered pairs, regardless of what the directions are asking you to do, like you don't even have to read the directions. The first thing you should do anytime you're given two ordered pairs is you should find the slope using the slope formula. You can't even do anything else until you know what the slope is. So we'll start today with our slope formula. Let's put it back up on the screen. Hopefully you have your notes from the first video sitting in front of you. When I did my slope formula this time, I chose to make the first ordered pair actually the y2 and the x2. So I did x2 and y2. Honestly, it does not matter which ordered pair is which as long as you stay consistent. So you just want to make sure that within a single ordered pair, both of them have a 1 or both of them have a 2. Okay, so you just want to stay consistent. So I did 5 minus 6 over 2, and it's 2 minus negative 3, which is 2 plus 3. Okay, and then I'm going to, do my adding and my subtracting, and I get negative 1 over 5. At this point in time in the problem, what I would normally do is I would go back and actually read the directions. If the directions for this problem say find the slope, then we're done. This is the slope. So this is one answer given my two ordered pairs. Given two ordered pairs, if it says find the slope, the answer is that the slope is negative 1 over 5. Remember that this is describing the slant of the line that we could draw through those two dots. Okay. But what if it doesn't want slope? What if it's asking you for a linear equation? This is not a linear equation, this is just a number. So if the directions do not ask you for slope, then you need to keep going in the problem. This was a great first step, but it won't be a final answer. For your second step, we're actually going to reuse the slope formula. I'm going to alter it a teeny tiny bit. I'm going to alter it by getting rid of the sub 2's on my y and on my x, changing them into just the letter y and just the letter x. I'm going to leave everything else the same. So after my minus signs, I will still be putting, and I chose to use this ordered pair for my x1 and y1. And where the letter m is, I actually now know what m is. I know my slope, it's negative 1 over 5. So I will be plugging that in where m is. And I get an equation that looks like this. Notice that this is literally the same as the first equation that we already wrote down, with the exception of I made this the letter y and I made that the letter x. From this new slope formula, I can now find all three of my linear equations. Remember, a linear equation must have a letter x and a letter y in it, and this one does. For the first type of linear equation, I'm going to go for point-slope form. Now, from our first video today, we learned that point-slope form looks like this. That is very similar to our slope formula. In fact, I can get from my slope formula to point-slope form doing one thing. What I'm going to do, I'm going to take my x quantity from my denominator, and I'm just going to slide it up here right next to my slope. That'll get me this parentheses. I've already got my slope. It's that negative 1/5. And the y minus 6 would be this part. So I'm just going to enclose the denominator in some parentheses. I'm going to slide it over, and I have point slope form. If the question is asking you for point slope form, this is how you can get it. Just take the denominator from the slope formula, slide it on over next to your slope. Remember, point slope form is supposed to have parentheses in it, so do not distribute. I want my parentheses there. But what if it's not asking for point slope form? If it's asking for point slope form, great, here we go, we got it. But it might not be asking for point slope form. There are two other forms that we could write this in. If it is not asking for point slope form, we're going to come back up here to our slope formula that have an x and a y in it. And instead of sliding my x over, I'm going to do cross multiplication. If you don't remember what cross multiplication is, it's where we take the bottom of one fraction, we go diagonally through the equal sign, and we multiply it by the top of the other fraction. Because there's an adding or subtracting problem, we would distribute. Again, you take the bottom of one fraction, you go diagonally through the equal sign, and you multiply it by the top of the other fraction. And again, we would be distributing. When you're cross multiplying, it's nice to put the answer with the letter Y on the left-hand side and the answer with the letter X on the right-hand side. That's kind of setting us up for something that we're going to be doing in a minute. Okay, so again, I cross multiplied. I did 5 times y minus 6, and I distributed. And I did -1 times x plus 3, and I distributed. And that's how I got this. From here, your next step is going to be to move your constant. You want to move your constant from the left side to the right side every single time. We do not want any constants on the same side as the letter Y. So left side to right side, that means in this problem, I'm going to be adding 30 on both sides. From here, I have two options. I'm actually one step away from both of my other linear equations. I'm going to start with option 1, which is let's try to write something in slope-intercept form. And I am one step away from that happening. To get slope-intercept form, I just need my letter y to be by itself. So if I divide everything, remember we're dividing all things individually, divide everything by 5, then I can get slope-intercept form. But what if I don't want slope-intercept form? What if instead of slope-intercept form, the direction said find standard form? Standard form looks very different. And in standard form, we learned also that we're not supposed to have any fractions or decimals. So I actually don't like that over 5 for standard form. So what I'm going to do for standard form, I'm going to come back here to the step right before I got my slope-intercept form answer. I'm coming back to the 5y equals -x plus 27. And in standard form, I need my x and my y to be on the left-hand side, and I need my constant to be on the right-hand side. And I'm almost there. My y is on the left-hand side. My constant is on the right-hand side. The very last, I'm one step away from an answer. The very last thing I need to do, I need to add the x over to the left-hand side. Now, we do want to stay consistent with our order of our variables. So I do need the x to be first, the y to be second, and the constant on the other side. So I'm going to put that positive x first, the positive 5y second, and it equals 27. Now, just one more little refresher about standard form. We already said no fractions, and that's fine. We have no fractions. The other thing, though, that you need to check for, you need to make sure that your letter x is positive. And in this example, my letter x is positive. And that means I've got my final answer. Okay, so again, this was a monster problem. Given two ordered pairs, we found 4 different answers. We found the slope of a line, which remember is not the actual line, it's a descriptive word. And we found 3 different ways to write an equation, all about that same line. All 3 of these equations would graph to make the same line. But that's a lesson for another day. Your homework tonight is a worksheet where I want you to find point slope, slope intercept, and standard. So a bunch of monster problems. If you're struggling, don't worry. We're going to practice some more monster problems during class tomorrow.